Friday, November the 2nd, 2018, All Souls Day, to honor a World War I veteran, Lester Umstattd, a 19-year-old young man who fought and died for our great country, the United States of America. And I'd like to introduce Chester Dale Burgess Sr. He's been one of our longtime board members, and he will give a prayer and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Our great Father in heaven, we come to you, Lord, with many thanks for your blessings that you bestow upon us each and every day. We just ask you to be with this gathering, dear Lord, to be with the family of this dear departed one. We just ask you to comfort them, and we just thank you for the honor that we have to come and pay tribute to the life that was given for this country so that we can all be free. We just thank you, Lord, and praise your name. Just ask you to be with each and every one that's represented here today. Watch and guide over us, keep us close to thee, close to each other. For these things we do ask in thy precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Taylor.
And we'll use the flag there for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Taylor, also the another priest is here.
Okay.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Father James, would you like to also give an introductory prayer for us for just starting?
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, as we come to honor your beloved, your Son, who gave his life for his country, for his family, and for those he loves, we also ask you, Lord, to send your blessing upon us, Lord, that we too may be inspired by his witness, so that in our lives we too may give of ourselves, not just for the sake of others, but in order to glorify you in all things. Lord, this is what we celebrate. We celebrate you. We celebrate all of your work. We ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Folks, I'd like to thank you all for attending, all of our members of the Cumberland Historic Cemetery Organization, members of the Cumberland American Legion Post, and all of our speakers and invited guests, and especially you folks from out of town. We greatly appreciate that. The Cumberland Historic Cemetery Organization was founded in 1983, 35 years ago, for the purpose of promoting and restoring area cemeteries and promoting our great American history of the patriots buried in these cemeteries. Since 1983, we have erected and restored over 900 monuments in and around the Cumberland, Maryland area. We do have many monuments out of this area. Far south is Micanopy, Florida, and to the north we have a monument to one of our deceased members, Dr. Gene Bayless, in Wilmore, Pennsylvania, just right outside of Johnstown, and many monuments downstate throughout Maryland. These monuments span our nation's 242-year history, from just prior to the Great American Revolution to current day deceased members of this organization. Over the years, we've erected many, many monuments to patriots of the American Revolution here in Maryland and nearby West Virginia. And every year on All Souls Day, which November 2nd, we always try to unveil our special monument of the year, which we call it. These monuments are placed under the organization's Designated and Protected Gravesite program. Literally, these monuments state that the grave of whoever it may be is a designated and protected gravesite of the Cumberland Historic Cemetery Organization.
Thank you. I'll be brief because actually the history of All Souls Day is fairly brief. It's based on tradition of our church, and in fact many of our traditions are based off something that someone believes should be done, and then it was accepted by the church on a larger scale. All Souls Day in essence was established for the focus of those who have gone before us, those who we believe have lived a friendship with God, have practiced their faith, have strived to live a good life, but still have some things that need to be purified. And that the Lord in this gift gives them a gift of being purified. It's not a third place that is meant to be permanent, but it is a place in which one is prepared to enter into the gates of heaven, to be with their God, who before him there is no selfishness, there is no self anything. It's all about the Lord. So, and it's interesting, I was asked to do history of All Souls Day, and I said, I'm the worst person when it comes to history, so I'm no skilled historian at all. So of course I had to do some research, and what I did find out was something I didn't know, that this celebration for the church itself was actually established in the 11th century by the Abbey of Cluny. It comes from a tradition, actually, that there was a gentleman who, it was a legend in which a pilgrim was returning from the Holy Land, and during his time he was on a desolate island. And while he was on that island, and again this is it is a legend, while he was on that island, he said that he had experienced the gate to purgatory, and that there were souls he had encountered, and that the Lord had asked him to pray for those souls, that they would enter into heaven.
First of all, when the father didn't know what year it was, he looked at me, and I was about to say 5,785, which is the Jewish year. I'd also like to know, it's a little-known historical fact that two of the descendants of the Abbot of Cluny are Rosemary and George Clooney. Of war against Germany. As his reasons, Wilson cited Germany's violation of its pledge to stop submarine warfare in the North Atlantic, as well as attempts to talk Mexico into an alliance against the United States. On April 4th, 1917, the U.S. Senate voted in support of the measure to declare war on Germany. The House concurred 2 days later. Once the United States declared war, men from Allegheny County joined the American Expeditionary Forces to fight in France. Some had military experience, others were raw recruits, farmers, coal miners, and school teachers. Many died of injuries in France. Others died of pneumonia, some in France and some in Camp Meade and other training locations.
Every year, I've been researching my uncle's service to our country. Records for American servicemen from the World War I era have been lost to time or unfortunate destruction by fire. One of the most helpful and productive sources of information has been the Office of the National Archives in College Park, Maryland. I thank them very much for their help. Let me tell you what I know about the young man we honor today. Lester Umstattd was born in Lonaconning, Maryland, on June 12, 1899. At the very young age of 5, Lester lost his mother, Bridget Swift Umstattd, to typhoid fever. She has been at rest here since November 1904. This is her monument here. After his mother died, Lester, his sister, and his 2 brothers, one being my father, were cared for and raised by his grandmother, Bridget Swift, who is also buried here in this family plot. By all accounts, Lester was well liked in the community. He was a bright young man who excelled in school. He completed the 8th grade here in Cumberland, and then went on to study at the Young Men's Christian Collegiate School in Baltimore. Afterwards, he enrolled at the University of Maryland, intending to study medicine. Shortly thereafter, the United States entered the war in Europe, and Lester did not hesitate to enlist. Due to his medical training, he was destined to become a combat medic. He completed basic training at Camp Meade, Maryland, and then on to Camp Oglethorpe, Georgia, for field medical training. And finally to Camp Upton, Long Island, New York, which was a newly created post to organize the 77th Infantry Division, to which Lester was assigned. Further assignment was to the 308th Medical Detachment of the 308th Infantry Brigade of the 77th Division. On April 6, 1918, Lester's unit shipped out on the steamship Cretic from the port of New York, New York. My research has led me to understand that this certainly was no pleasure cruise. You see, the credit contained berthing and mess facilities for only one half of the number of soldiers on board. Consequently, one half of the unit would spend 12 hours in the berths, while the other half slept on deck.
And Faye, couldn't you see it clear enough to read it for us, please?
I'm not sure I can. Let me just see if I can get it first. Okay. Lester A. Umstott, June 12, 1899 to August 18, 1913. Killed in action, World War I, the Great War. Was that scene? Offensive. Was it, did I say that correctly? Was that scene?
Yep.
Offensive. Combat medic, 77th Infantry Division, 309th Infantry Regiment, Medical Detachment. Your life matters. What you do in life echoes across the generations